becoming myself again, and I'm super thankful for it. I just want to talk today about something called the evidence finding machine. And I know that has a very ominous title, but it's actually quite a significant breakthrough for some people to realize about their minds. So let's just dive in. So your brain is not hardwired to look around you and find truth in things. It's not designed to find necessarily the right answer. And I know that our like conscious brains always thinks that we are doing this. We're observing scenes and we're thinking like, is this true or is this false? We're trying to figure things out. We're trying to sort through things. But like I've said 1,000 million times, our brains are super, super lazy. Like so lazy. And what our brain wants to do most often is do the things it does most often. And it is really, truly designed to look around you and support the beliefs that you already believe. So it finds evidence to support what you already believe in. And when you are given ideas or situations or scenarios that go against your belief, often your brain just shuts off to it and won't even absorb it or listen to it. It just says, no, I don't believe that. And your brain does this so that it doesn't have to create more neural pathways. It doesn't have to expand its learning. It doesn't have to question itself and cause you distress. So it avoids things that maybe contradict what it truly already believes. So why is this negative? Why does this hinder us on a daily basis? So the problem is that this can actually seriously conflict with what is true. So if we have a thought about anything that we really believe is true but isn't, our brain is going to look for the support of everything around it to concrete that belief that you have. Often this fuels a lot of negative thoughts about ourselves because we believe a lot of negative thoughts about ourselves. So our brain then looks for evidence to support those negative thoughts that we have about ourselves. Another thing is we often have this idea of what other people think about us or what other people feel about us. And we then look for evidence to support that as well. So for example, if you really believe that your boss is sexist, whether he is or isn't, if you believe that, every single thing that he does that is remotely sexist, you're going to hold on to that. You're going to see it and you're going to support your belief further because it's already a belief that you have and your brain is just going to automatically grab it. Because your brain doesn't want to think something new. It wants to keep thinking the same thing. And so in return, if your boss then did something respectful or kind towards women, you are probably just going to dismiss it as like this one-time thing. He's always a dick to women. Always. He hates women. This one time, whatever. That's not a thing because he hates women. And this is happening in our brains all the time. And we don't always have this awareness that our brain is doing this. So a dramatic example is people who believe in flat earth. And they did a lot of studies on flat earthers because it's such a wild thing to believe. And such a big, percentage of people actually believe this. So they did all these studies on what would happen when they showed them real hard evidence against the earth being flat. And in almost every case, when you showed the person evidence against them, they held on to their belief even harder. It forced them to retreat even further and believe that flat earth was a thing stronger. which is very interesting because you're showing them evidence, right? You're showing them truth. You're showing them truth. But their brain wants to keep believing what they already believe in. So it's very interesting. So I have a couple, real life normal examples that I want to give you. So one example I can use for my life is I have this really, big tornado drama in my head about not being able to speak French. So just to give you a little background, my husband speaks French and his whole family speaks French. And I so badly want to speak French. And it's so much more than I want to speak French. I feel like I should speak French. I feel like, I would have better relationships with his family if I could speak French. I think that people would think I was smarter if I could speak French. I am mad at myself, that I'm not learning fast enough. I get upset when I can't participate in conversations and I have all these layers, right? And I have this big, strong underlying belief that I should be able to learn French in the time that I've been learning it. I also believe that people are mad that I don't speak it. So I get really nervous and really anxious and really stressed in all situations where I might have to speak French or where people ask me to speak French, because basically my big fear is feeling shame and thinking thoughts in my head of being ashamed. Really, that's a lot of times the underlying fear for most of us in social situations. If you have a social fear, you fear having thoughts in your own mind that are shameful of yourself. And the problem is that because I have this belief so strongly that I should speak French and that people are mad that I don't, and that, people would like me more if I did, that anytime I try and speak French and someone corrects my grammar, or I try and speak French and people giggle or anything, I just implode inwards, right? I can't handle how bad I feel because I'm just seeing everywhere, they're laughing at me, or someone might have a stern look and I don't understand the conversation. So I'm just assuming that they're angry, that I don't understand, or that they're, mad that I'm not participating properly. Whatever the situation is, I always am able to turn it to be something about me and not being able to speak French. When probably most of the time it has nothing to do with me speaking French, but because I believe it so strongly, my brain looks for it everywhere. And I mean everywhere. Everywhere we go. If someone, if I'm buying something at the grocery store and I speak French and they don't answer, I'm like, oh, I must have spoke French so badly that they wouldn't even answer me, right? But probably she just doesn't answer anybody. But my brain wants to keep fueling that belief because that belief is so strong, right? So I'll give another example, not of myself personally, but one that happens a lot, that I see women deal with a lot. So often women believe that their husbands don't think that they're beautiful. And again, the more we dive into this, you'll understand that it's your thought that you don't think you're beautiful that is reflected on everyone else. So because you think this thought, my husband doesn't think I'm beautiful, you start trying to find evidence for it everywhere. And it starts to drive you crazy. So you think, oh, we watched this movie with Jennifer Aniston and then your husband says, wow, look how beautiful she is. Instantly your brain goes, oh, well, if she's beautiful, I'm not beautiful. And, now that we've watched this, no way he's going to want to look at me because such a different person on there. And, then you start thinking oh, I saw that my friend got flowers last week. I don't get flowers ever. It's probably because she's beautiful. It's probably because I'm not beautiful. You know what I mean? And you start making these connections to support this belief of yourself. And again, I want to emphasize that this is a belief that you have about yourself. it is reflected on others because you are looking for affirmation that it is true. Because you want to believe that it's true because you believe that it's true and you want to see that everyone else believes it. So what happens with that is when you start doing that to people, when you start inferring their thinking and you start deciding how they feel about you, it puts a huge wedge in between your relationship. Whether it be romantic or anybody, if you start inferring what the other person is thinking and start putting words in their brain and you play these scenarios reflecting how you feel about yourself, that is a really angry and dark place to live. And I'm assuming that often a lot of us are doing this and we're not realizing it. So I'm going to show you a couple ways that we can break free from that kind of thinking and increase our awareness of it and fight it back, because I think that this can be a very painful tornado of emotions. And I know that when I started doing this work for the evidence, it really took away a lot of my pain, and I'm really excited to share it with you guys. So what are we going to do about this? First things first, like I said before, you need to understand deeply that you cannot control other people's thoughts about you. You are merely assuming their thoughts about you. And whether those thoughts about you are true or not, you cannot control them. I know most of us believe that the way we act can manipulate the way people think about us. And this is a hard one because I know that people really believe this. You know, if I act politely, people will think I'm polite, for example. But funny how everyone can think different things are polite. So for example, you know, what's polite at my family's home, what our traditions are, if I brought that to a different family's traditions, it could be really seen as not polite. But in my mind, I'm acting as polite as possible to make this person believe that about me. So just try and think about that, like, just because you believe something doesn't mean the other person has the same thoughts as you. They have wildly different thoughts than you. So the way you think you can manipulate people is actually so off because you do not think the same way as them, and they do not think the same way as you. So first off, remember that you cannot manipulate the way people think about you the way you think you can. Okay, secondly, I need you to ask yourself what you want to believe. So if you have a thought that, you know, my husband doesn't think I'm beautiful, what do you want to believe? Do you want to believe that your husband thinks you're beautiful? Do you not really care that your husband thinks you're beautiful? Do you want to believe that your husband doesn't think you're beautiful? What is it that you want to think? Because if you're not trying to do something intentionally, you're going to let your brain take charge. It's always going to go negative first. It is the way your brain is designed that if you're not trying to make it positive, it will go negative instead. Okay, and I want you to remember too that your negative thoughts are very comfortable to you. Your brain really likes to have those thoughts. And there's nothing wrong with you if you are trying to do mindset training and you're trying to put positive thoughts and your brain keeps going back to the negative. It is a dance, okay? It is... One person said, don't make out with your old thoughts. So if you are trying to have new thoughts, okay, your old thoughts are going to come up. They're going to come around you, but it doesn't mean you have to make out with them. It doesn't mean you have to be intimate with those thoughts. You can have them. They're going to come up, but you can say, you know what, that's not serving me anymore. I'm not going to engage with them. But remember, nothing is wrong with you if those thoughts come up. Of course they're going to come up. You've thought them your entire life. You're not doing it wrong if you're thinking negative thoughts. But listen to your brain, maybe for the first time ever. Listen to it and do something different intentionally, right? Okay, so I have 2 ways that we can practice this work. The first thing that we can do is write down the new thought you want to believe. Maybe write down a few so that you understand kind of like where you're at and where you really want to be. What do you really want to think? And then I want you to write down evidence right now that already supports that belief. So just because you don't believe it and you have a lot of evidence about not believing it, doesn't mean you don't actually have some evidence to support this new thought. So for example, I struggle often with the thought that people think I'm dumb or that people really don't believe that I'm smart. And it doesn't serve me very well because I'm not stupid and I really want people to think that I'm smart. And for me to be defensive about it isn't actually going to make people think I'm smarter, and it's not going to make me feel better about my intelligence. So I can write down, people do think that I am smart. Because that's a thought I want to believe. And then I can write down evidence to support that, like I have a degree. I have an 80% average in high school. I got jobs based on my grades. I have received jobs based on aptitude tests and applications. Stuff like that, right? Like I have hard evidence, not just like thoughts, but like real evidence to support this new thought instead of old thought. Because the old thought, you know, we have all these things, well, that one time, like this guy called me stupid, or like I didn't get this job. Let's just like throw that away and just focus on hard evidence that supports the thought you want to have. And sometimes it's nice to just look down at a list of your real accomplishments and achievements and just be like, yeah, you know what am I thinking? Like I am totally a smart person. Okay, number 2 for practicing is backing out of the tornado. So often, you know, especially when we're new to thought work, we don't realize we're having the bad thought until we're like all the way in to the emotional tornado of horrible thoughts and horrible thinking. So what I like to do, if I have gotten myself to the part of my brain where I am like upset, like, you know, usually like it's me when I'm driving home, I've got like an hour drive home and my brain's going and I'm thinking like, you know, whatever. And it goes and it goes and it goes. And I can feel my body getting upset. Like I'm getting sweaty, I'm getting stressed. Like I just want to get out of my car. Like don't even want to go home, whatever. And then I think that, oh, when I get home, this feeling isn't going to stop. Like I'm still going to be mad when I get home. And I really don't want to be mad when I get home. So I like to ask myself, is thinking this worth it? Like, okay, you're having this thought, valid or not, it's making you feel this really upset emotion. Do I want to keep thinking this? Was it worth it? Would I think this all over again if I had the choice? Do I want to feel like this right now? And I like to give myself choices like that, like yes or no. Do you want to be mad about this right now, Victoria? Is this something that's worth being physically upset for the rest of the night over? Yes or no? Maybe it's yes. Who knows what I'm mad about? But ask yourself that question. Do I want to continue to be angry, or do I want to choose to stop being angry? And then if it is yes, then what? Okay, I don't want to be angry anymore. Then you have to replace those thoughts with something different that either changes your perspective or completely just takes you out of that. So depending on what you're upset about, depending on where you're at, you have those 2 options. Do I want to completely stop thinking about it because it's not serving me at all? Or do I want to change my view on it to think about it differently? So let's say I'm upset because I want, let's say I want to have a better relationship with my sister and I'm mad at her because she hasn't called me. And I keep thinking like, oh, you know, she said she was going to call tonight and I bet she's not even going to call tonight. She's not even going to call tonight. She doesn't even give a crap about me. And you keep going like, oh, you know, on my birthday, she ditched me and, you know, I haven't heard from her and whatever. Emotional tornado, whatever emotions you're having about that. And then I stop myself and I say, do I really want to be mad for the rest of the night over me thinking that my sister may or may not call me when I get home? because it hasn't even happened yet. That's usually when I get most mad at myself, is when I'm expecting something to not happen that they said they were going to do. And then I feel so stupid if she did call me and for 2 hours I was angry, overthinking she's not going to call me, and then she does, right? So I want to say to myself, like, stop. There's no reason you should feel angry right now. So if you want to change your thoughts about it, I could think to myself, like, you know what? I wonder if my sister has a lot of exams going on right now. I wonder if she has anxiety about phone calls. I wonder if she would rather me call her. I wonder if, you know, it's back to that curiosity versus judgment. When you ask questions, you get so much less angry. I wonder when she's going to call. I wonder if she doesn't call today, if she's going to call tomorrow. I wonder if she's having financial difficulties since she didn't give me a birthday present. Ask questions. Think about that person like a person, and stop thinking and assuming that they're attacking you, because really you are just attacking you, because you have this thought underlying that if she doesn't call you, that means you're not worth, you know, being called, or that you aren't receiving the amount of love that you deserve, or whatever thought is under there that's causing you to feel that way about you, and you're putting it on someone else's actions because you think that that's evidence that supports that thought that you have about yourself, that you aren't being loved enough, or whatever it is, right? So this can be kind of a heavy topic because a lot of us don't realize that we're doing it. So I hope that this gives you some awareness of that thought pattern. And I hope to hear that, you know, practicing this gives you a little bit of peace as it gives me. I'll just leave it with, you know, this one saying I really love to say to myself and to my clients is sometimes we struggle with coming out of negative emotions. And I just always say, ask yourself, what kind of night do you want to have? Or what kind of day do you want to have? So if you wake up and you're feeling angry and agitated and you're barking at everyone, ask yourself, what kind of day do you want to have today? Do you want to have a day where you're mad at everyone and everyone's mad at you? Or do you want to stop and choose to do something differently? It is always a choice, especially when you ask yourself that question, right? So I encourage you, ask yourself every day when you're in a bad mood, what kind of day do I want to have today? And if you want to have an angry day, that is totally okay, but choose it. Don't be a slave to your own emotions. Okay, I'm done rambling, and I really hope that someone gets some clarity and peace from this. Have a great day, ladies.